when we stick to something that's not a good fit. Seth Godin or Godin. It's not true that winners never quit. You hear that a lot. Winners never quit. Not true. In fact, according to an author we're going to talk about in a moment, David Epstein, winners quit fast and often when they detect that a plan is not the best fit. And get this, they don't feel bad about it either. We fail when we stick to something that's not a good fit. So how do we figure out when it's time to quit? Or how do we take the next step in whatever we're doing after we quit? You might get the sense that we're switching now from success to failure, and that's exactly what's happening. Okay. So the information on this slide is kind of a mix between some of my experience and also some of the stuff I've read from David Epstein in his book called Range. I'd highly recommend it. If you are a student at your university, you might be able to get access to it for free, either as an ebook or as an audiobook. That's how I listen to it at McGill. Okay, quitting. I'm going to say that word again, quitting. It's scary and it's not always fun. Failure, also scary, not always fun. Or is it? Is quitting, is failure scary? Well, I actually say no. I don't think quitting or failure are scary. I think they're actually super fun, and we're going to talk about why. Now, by no means do I want to sensationalize failure. Absolutely not. However, I do recognize, as I've said before, that failure is a necessary component of success. I'm actually going to repeat that. Failure is a necessary component of success. Remember, if your path has no obstacles, it doesn't lead anywhere. Or maybe it does, but everybody's already traveled on that path and they've already arrived at that destination if there are no obstacles. I like to remind myself, actually, that the peak of Mount Everest is covered in garbage. I love that. The peak of Mount Everest is covered in garbage. If there's one thing I want you to take away from my talk today, it's actually that. Something that you have to struggle with so intensely and train for so long is a journey that brings you ultimately to a giant patch of dead bodies and garbage. Okay, that's the strong imagery part of my talk today. Now, before you quit, there are a few things that I want you to do. Okay, things that I think you should do. I feel quite strongly about this. Number one is take your time. And Srinivas spoke about this. There's always time. Okay, it keeps chugging along, but there is a lot of it. If you're in a new field, if you're in a new field, then you're going to learn a lot of new things. A lot of you are university students, and so you're knee deep in learning right now, or at least I hope so. Weirdly enough, the most effective learning, something I learned from David Epstein, is that the most effective learning sometimes looks like falling behind. For example, if you're an athlete, you might reserve some energy during a long distance race so that you can have this final push to overtake those burnt out competitors that you have. I used to row. I was a rower back in CEGEP, and I remember one specific race where it felt like we were behind. All the boats were ahead of us pretty much, but we had reserved a bit of energy and we were able to overtake them. I don't remember what place we came in, but we didn't come dead last. And it seemed like we were falling behind, but it actually meant that we were going to come out ahead in the end. It takes time to find the deep structure of a problem before matching a strategy to it. Something else I learned from David Epstein. Expert problem solvers take their time to find that deep structure. They take their time. And once they do find that deep structure, the approach to a solution becomes clear. I like to think of mathematicians. It takes time to really understand a problem at an extremely complex level. And so if you take your time to understand the problem, the solution that you come up with will probably be better. So this is important not only on your journey of self-development, but also in school too. Learning is best done slowly if you want to develop lasting knowledge. Have you ever tried to cram for a test? Probably. Did you remember a lot after that test? Probably not. So you got to learn slow. You got to work slow, even if it means doing poorly at the beginning. So if you're thinking about quitting, thinking that you'll never pass a test, never get a job, just ask yourself, have I given myself ample time to find a solution to my problem? Number one. Number two, struggle a little. or a lot. The harder it is, the more you learn. The harder it is, the more you learn. When you struggle, your brain reacts in a way that it recognizes that what you're doing is probably important, because you wouldn't be struggling unless it was worth something. Change doesn't happen overnight, definitely not, but the desire to change does. And I'm hoping that tonight is that night for you. So maybe the next change you want to make to your lifestyle, as the manager of it, is to dial up that struggle knob a little bit. Introduce some challenge into your day-to-day. Remember, flow is impossible without a high degree of challenge. So if you're struggling, you're being challenged. And if you develop skills along the way to meet that challenge, flow just happens. Number 3, before you quit, make mistakes. You don't want to quit before you've actually failed a little bit. Not to the point where you're living on the streets, where you have no money to your name, you have no family members who are taking care of you, you have no hope left for life. That is an extreme nobody wants to find themselves in. But you got to make some mistakes along the way. I listened to my sister when she told me I wasn't smart enough for science. It was a mistake. Yes, it slowed me down, but I was able to confidently eliminate commerce from the list of potential academic paths I might find interesting. So mistakes provide incredible feedback as to what's working and what's not. Think about babies. Babies fall over constantly as they learn to walk. Could you imagine if babies just quit trying to learn how to walk because they kept falling down? We'd all spend our adult lives just sitting. So I guess not much would change then. Okay, lastly, before you quit, just remember, don't blindly follow your dreams. Okay. Sometimes before you quit, you might actually decide that you don't want to quit, and it's because you are in this blind following of dreams. So following your dreams can be really limiting. Most people won't tell you that. Following your dreams can be extremely limiting, especially if you have those dreams early in life and you don't consider the individual change that you experience throughout it. For example, I wanted to become an astrophysics professor. I realize now I do not want to be an astrophysics professor. It was a dream at a time, but no longer. I used to do stand-up comedy. I did it for 6 years, and there were points where I thought, hey, I might want to become a stand-up comedian as a career. And now I realize, absolutely not. No way. No way. I've learned a lot about stand-up. I've learned about all these different things. I would not want to be a stand-up comedian as my career. Absolutely not. Okay, that's before you quit. Hi, you quit. Congratulations. Very nice. Quitting is okay. It's great. Now, after you quit, there's really just one thing you got to do. Much simpler after you quit. You got to say yes to things. And you have to see what you learned when you say yes to things. This is one of those beautiful parts of life. See what you learn, where you end up by the end of the year if you start saying yes more often. Being a strategic yes man has actually worked wonders for me over the past decade of my life. It got me to host a variety show in grade 11 when I was in high school. Somebody offered that to me and I thought about saying no. And when I took it, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. And it led to me starting to do stand-up comedy a couple of years later. Starting to do stand-up comedy was a great option when a comedian told me that I should just try it out. And I said, sure, why not? I got into rowing because I saw a sign that said, are you interested in rowing? And I thought, that sounds like a lot of effort, but I took the leap of faith and it was some of the best 2 years of my life in CEGEP doing rowing. There's lots more examples, but I'm going to spare you the details. So you don't need to be asked in order to say yes. I know a lot of those examples involve being asked, but you can also create your own opportunities. And the easiest way to do that is to understand where you fit into the larger social sphere.